What's going on, everyone? We're going to revamp our YouTube channel a little bit and go to more of a daily vlog style YouTube, which means we'll show you what we're cooking on a regular basis at home here, but things will be a little less edited, and a little more sort of everyday style cooking. So in this video, we are going to make Swedish meatballs. We found some really great pre-made meatballs at the grocery store. We're going to show you how to make this sort of classic favorite dish that you can get at IKEA. It's really good, really easy to make at home. So let's jump in the kitchen, show you how to make it. Alright, so to make the Swedish meatballs, we're basically going to brown the meatballs, take them out and make a sauce, and then put the meatballs back in and basically finish cooking them in there. So a little bit of oil, this is just vegetable oil, or sunflower oil actually, and get this pan heated up over medium-high heat or so. Alright, so as the oil is heating up here, we want to make sure the oil is really hot. I'm going to use some of my frozen stock. I buy these ice cube trays and put the stock in here and then throw it in the freezer, so I always have homemade stock on hand. So we're going to need a fair bit of stock, so I'm going to defrost about 3 of these, which is, I don't know, about 500 milliliters or so of stock. So let's put that on some heat, get that going. If we come back to the oil, we'll see this is probably going to be hot enough. You want to make sure it's hot enough because we're going to sear these and get some color on the outside. So let's put one in and make sure it's hot enough. And so that's what you're going for, that sound there. Hopefully you can hear that. That means that this is going to fry and not just simmer. Alright, so all of our meatballs are in. I'm just going to season these a little bit with a bit of salt and a couple turns of pepper. So once these are in, basically we're just going to try and leave them alone for a few minutes so that they can develop that crust on the side that's in the bottom of the pan. So we've started going here. We've got our stock defrosting, I guess, and we're starting to brown our meatballs. So we'll come back in about 2 minutes and show you what these look like. They've been going for, I don't know, about 90 seconds or so, not really all that long. If you remember, the pan is really quite hot. Just going to give these a rotate. You can see how we've got some color going on the meatballs. So that's what we're looking for. Get that browning, which is basically flavor that's created from the caramelization of the sugars and whatnot. So a Maillard reaction. Really what we're looking for whenever you're cooking meat is to brown and get that reaction going. So we're going to do that on all the sides here. We'll show you what it looks like basically once everything's browned. So it's going to take about 5 minutes or so, but we'll jump ahead to the browned, completed meatballs. Meatballs, as you can see, are all brown pretty much all around on all of them. So we're ready to finish this up. The inside is still going to be raw because this is a really high temperature, and so it's basically coated the outside, but we're going to deal with that in a second. So onto a plate. I've got a bit of paper towel on here just to absorb any of that excess grease. We'll get those off here and set those aside. So we're going to take this just off the, we're going to turn down the heat here and get rid of some of the excess oil that's in there. So I'm just going to put that in my little oil pot here. So there's lots of flavor basically left in the bottom of this pan here. Basically those little brown pieces that cooked off of the meatballs are really flavorful. So we're going to make our sauce in the same pan that we cooked the meatballs in, that we browned the meatballs in. So first things first, a little bit of butter. If you remember, I did lower the heat here, so you're going to want to keep an eye on this, but this pan was very hot for about 10 minutes or so. So that residual heat should keep things going. So there was a little bit of oil left in from browning the meatballs in there, not the end of the world, but that butter is going to be the beginning of our roux, which is creating our sauce. So we're going to wait for this to melt. Basically it foams up, as you can see there, and then it'll start dying, so you want to move quickly here, but basically add equal parts butter and flour to make your roux. So now this is too cold. I'm going to turn the heat back up a bit, and basically just stir in the butter into that flour and let it cook for about 3 minutes. So I've switched to a whisk because we're going to start adding the chicken stock into the roux here. So you can see, you know, it's changed a bit of color. It's a little bit dark brown here, or blonde, I guess you could call it. But mostly, you can't smell, but mostly what you're looking for is that raw flour smell to be gone. And then basically, little by little, we're going to add in our chicken stock and whisk that into the mixture. Always controlling your heat as you're going here. So this will get really thick really quickly, but doing it this way in stages helps make sure there's not a lot of lumps in the final sauce. So you can see how much that thickened, which is what we're looking for. And so just continue adding the stock to make our sauce. Okay, so that was the last of our stock. We're just going to keep adding this until we get the sauce at about the consistency that we want. Probably a little thinner than we want because we're going to add some cream to this, which will thicken it up as well. If you run out of stock, you can use water here as well. Obviously, it won't be as flavorful as the chicken stock, but can help get your sauce to the right, get your stock to the right consistency. Okay, so we want to bring this up to a simmer. So I've just turned my heat up a little bit, and we will get this up to a simmer. Okay, so you can see it's starting to bubble, starting to boil. Basically, now we want to turn down the heat and sort of keep the bubbles going at a really low, you know, like just this is now. So it's still bubbling, but at a really low rate. That's a simmer, basically. So you can stir here to make sure all of the lumps are gone, but you want about 3 minutes now to thicken the sauce, incorporate all the flavors before you add the cream. So after about 3 minutes of bubbling away, you know, at about this amount of bubbling is what you're looking for. The sauce, as you can see, has thickened up a fair bit, and we're going to taste for seasoning, enrich with a bit of cream, and then add our meatballs back into the pot and basically just finish cooking the meatballs in there. So yeah, so we need to season now with a bit of freshly cracked pepper, a little bit of salt. Just be careful about adding too much salt here because we're going to add soy sauce. Soy sauce is a great condiment to have around because you really boost up that umami type flavor and add a lot of flavor with just a couple of dollops of the soy sauce. And last but not least, we need a little bit of acid to brighten things up. So just a little bit of white wine vinegar will go in here. You could use any type of vinegar, cider vinegar, white wine vinegar all work really well. So last but not least, we're just going to add a little bit of cream. This is an optional step. You could leave this just as it is, but adding a bit of fat, whether it's butter or cream or something like that, really just boosts the sauce up a fair bit. So a little bit of cream in there, and then again, we'll just give this another stir to combine. All right, one final taste to make sure our sauce is how we want it. Yeah, tastes great. We are going to add our meatballs back into the pan. So this is the last step. Basically, we're just going to finish cooking the meatballs now. If you remember, we sauteed or fried the outside, so we got the nice brown crust, and we want to make sure the inside is cooked, and we want them to sort of stew in this sauce for a few minutes to get them fully cooked. So it's going to depend on the size of your meatballs, how long this is going to take. I think it's probably going to take me about 5 or 7 minutes with the size that I have. Alright, so about 15 minutes or so, maybe 20 minutes max, we've made homemade Swedish meatballs. Really simple. Just brown the meat, make the sauce, cook the meatballs in the sauce that you made. So here's what we've got. We've got 4 meatballs here. Made about 8 of them in total, but this is how good they look.